And we're going straight to South Africa, where the country's education department today begins a massive drive to vaccinate more than 500,000 teachers across the country. Now, the vaccination drive amid calls to close schools due to the surge in COVID-19 cases in South Africa. Now, yesterday, South Africa, which is in the throes of a third wave, recorded over 290 deaths and more than 11,000 new COVID-19 infections.
Sadly, the death toll was the highest since March 19, when there were 311 deaths recorded. Joining us this morning is South African journalist and editor Candice Bailey to unpack the expected campaign. Candice, tell us a bit more about the planned vaccination drive for teachers. A very good morning to you, by the way.
Good morning, Felicity. Good morning, Elisa. Essentially, the Education Department has set aside 11 days to vaccinate about 582,000 educators and workers in the education sector. Those include food handlers, they include drivers, people who do transport, assistant teachers, as well as the cleaners in schools. It's quite a significant campaign, and what it means is that it's being managed by our district level of education, and what they're doing, it's happening in both the private sector as well as the public sector schools, and they are sending out circulars to schools to explain to them how many teachers should be going to the sites. They've set aside about more than 100 sites, more than 200 sites, in fact, across the country where teachers can go out. So it's rolling out exactly the way our vaccination campaign for the elderly rolled out for the past month or so. But it is quite a significant campaign. It will mean that there will be some disruptions at school, but 11 days that they've set aside.
Wow, 11 days, over 500,000 teaching staff. Candice, how visible is this vaccination campaign at the moment?
Look, it remains to be seen whether they'll be able to do this in 11 days, Lisa, to be honest with you. It is quite a number of teachers. The Education Department has said that they don't want to have disruptions to school, which it seems like it's a little bit unrealistic already. There have been reports of some schools saying they won't be able to have, in fact, they've sent circulars out to parents saying they will be closing on certain days because teachers will be going to vaccination sites. What makes it worse is that the Education Department is not providing transport for these teachers to get to these vaccination sites. They are asking teachers to do it by themselves. So how will they get there? That's another thing. They also they're trying to not have too much overcrowding at the sites. So that will also be a concern that we'll need to watch and check that it doesn't happen in that way. But we'll see whether or not they'll be able to run through more than 500,000 educators in this time.
There's been calls to shut down schools. I mean, a lot of persons are saying it's imperative, considering the changes with the weather and the likely implication for growing infections. Why do you think this is being rejected?
So, in fact, you're right. There were two calls by both the Economic Freedom Fighters, the political party, as well as the Educators Union of South Africa to close schools. And they are saying that, we need to consider the health of teachers and of learners. But what the Education Department is saying on the other end is that a very small percentage of schools have been affected. They're saying less than just over 100 schools out of 25,000 schools in the country have been affected, and that they can't actually afford further disruptions to the school year. At the moment, what's happening in South Africa is that particularly our lower level schools are having rotated school days where they only go to school in a certain amount of days for the week. And what experts are saying is that, that's very detrimental for learning, and there definitely will be a loss of learning for the year. And I think the Education Department is taking that into consideration and saying that we can't have schools closed on a full-time basis.
Well, Candice, just before we let you go, it's quite important to really put this vaccination campaign for schools in context with the vaccination overall in the country and how it's going. Are people really taking it up? And is the schools now vaccination the main issue rather than vaccinating the rollout of people in the country?
So at the moment only, we vaccinated about 2 million people. elderly people over the age of 60. And that has been going very well. I think the focus is shifting now to the schools for the next 11 days so that we can get our educators vaccinated. The problem, I think, is the fact that there have been more than 5,000 learners in Gauteng, for example, that have contracted COVID. So they're trying to get that going. But the elderly people, are still being vaccinated. The challenge is that our third wave is quite significant at the moment. We are seeing our hospitals overrun. Our infection rates, particularly in Gauteng, which is our economic capital, is sky high, and there is concerns that the infection rates are going to skyrocket even more, and that we need to go into a stronger lockdown to maintain or to contain the virus.
What are some of the other major concerns that are being expressed by medics as the weather changes? Because there seems to be a connection between the rainy season and the dry season in these parts of the world.
Of course, Felicity, what we know with COVID is that we need to be in well-ventilated spaces for it not to spread. Obviously, with the weather, with temperatures dropping to single digits, it's quite dangerous we don't want to have our windows open. We don't want to be outside. We want to be inside. And obviously, that creates a breeding ground for COVID to spread. So I think that is the main concern for health experts at the moment, that our numbers are going to go even higher than they have gone already, because people are getting cold. They're trying to stay indoors. They're not trying to social distance enough, essentially.
All right, Candice, thank you very much for your time on the show this morning.
Thanks, Elisa. Thanks, Felicity.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.
Right, more stories right here on Breakfast Central.